a Canadian treasure, singer-songwriter with over 20 years in the music industry, bringing us songs like Brother Down, Don't Walk Away Eileen, Where Have All the Good People Gone, and a fresh album that dropped in October. Sam Roberts of the Sam Roberts Band, how you doing?
I'm good, Dana. Thanks. That's quite an intro.
Oh.
I'm going to have to live up to that in some way now.
I was saying that I was really excited to interview you because I interview some people I've listened to one or two songs because of how you just download a song now. But you, I've listened to full albums driving across Canada just because of the timing. So you're really on the soundtrack of my life quite a bit. And it's exciting to talk to you. So yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And you've got a tour coming up, a new album that just came out in October. I see that some of the tour dates are already sold out, like the one that kicks off in Montreal.
Yeah, which is always a nail biter for sure, your hometown show. It was kind of rolling the dice to open up here at home in Montreal. It's always nice to feel that love from the people that you've spent most of your life with, for sure. And nice to see it spread across the country a little bit too, because it's been a while. We played a lot of shows in the last couple of years, sort of in terms of going on a full-blown tour and playing, coast to coast. It's been a while, so it's just nice to know that you kind of haven't faded from people's hearts and minds, and that they're still excited to come and see you play.
You've done a bunch of festivals and some dates, but this is like your first true tour in about 5 years, right?
Yeah, and it's very different to sort of jump around the country in the summertime playing festivals, and you're on the East Coast one day and the West Coast the next. There isn't that sort of feeling of the continuity and kind of linear journey that a tour represents. And that's something that, as you say, has been missing for a number of years. And certainly the fact that we didn't get to tour our last album that we released in 2020, which was right, smack in the middle of the pandemic, meant that it all just felt like a bit of an unfinished chapter. So now we get to kind of go and back to doing what we know and what we love, and feeling like this new record that gets a chance to, for a little bit of time in the sun.
I'm really thankful that you guys did release that in 2020, the album All of Us, because a lot of bands held on to their music until they could tour with the album. So it gave us something new to listen to. And it was really awesome to see you guys jamming from home. Like you, Dave, and Eric did that thing for Indie 88, where you were showing us the album and you were playing live for us. And even though it was on a computer, it was still better to be sitting at home with new music than not, right?
Yeah, it was a bit of a tough period that way. And I completely sympathize with the bands who decided to hold on to that new music and wait until they could go and tour it. I mean, first of all, because the idea of putting out a record and not touring it just makes it, again, feel like this sort of, that you haven't completed the circle, so to speak. But also the fact that this is how we all earn a living. And I think people were trying to make decisions that made sense in terms of how to keep their bands above water. I think for us, the other side of that was just, from our perspective, it just felt like this was music that we just didn't want to sit on for too long. There was just a sense of urgency, about what the record was saying and how we felt about it, that it just felt more important for us at that time anyway to just get it out there and have it work its way into the world.
Well, and because that's what you were feeling at that time, it might not be relevant. Like 3 years later, you didn't know how long the pandemic was going to go on.
Yeah.
You might not feel the same way. And obviously you had more feelings because you guys came out in October with The Adventures of Ben Blank, which is a really cool album.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we've got lots of feelings, which is good when you have to write songs. But I think that just the notion of the unpredictability and uncertainty of that time anyway, for everybody, not just for musicians, but that kind of unpredictability is built into being in a band. So in some ways, we're almost prepared for that mindset. The reality was still very difficult, but this sort of not knowing what lies around the corner is very much just what it feels like to play in a band all the time and to make your life around making music. So we'd been sort of, without realizing, we were like Jedis in training for the pandemic, and in terms of mindset anyway. And I think that really helped us to navigate that, the murkiness of the time.
Well, you've been with the same band this whole time. You guys have stuck together through everything, and a real challenge would have been the pandemic and making decisions for your music.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, that familiarity and the sort of bond that we have going back decades helped us to not panic too much. I'm not saying we didn't panic. I think everybody panicked, but it just helps you to stay a bit more focused and grounded and have the clarity to sort of find your way forward. And I think because of that, as difficult as the time was, we kind of came out with this ambition to just keep going and make new music and again, go back on tour and just get our feet back into that world that has been our world for so long, and the one that we love and care about the most. So, here we go. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, it's going to be great. And people should go on to your website, samrobertsband.com, to get tickets, because as I'm looking at this, there are quite a few that are sold out already. I want to go back to the pandemic. You did another really cool thing with your kids. You have 2 girls and a boy, and they all play instruments. You started kind of your own band and played We're All in This Together, which was a perfect song to do during that time. And that would have been a lot of work to get your kids, like you guys would have had to practice quite a bit, right?
Well, let me just put it this way. If that were to happen today, well, it would never happen, because now they're in their mid-teens. And there's no way that I could coerce them into practicing or just even agreeing to do it, because it would be so cringy that they would just never do it. But they were young enough and, still impressionable and, dare I say, obedient enough to actually follow me into that one. So, I'm glad it happened when it did. Yeah, It just wouldn't happen anymore. But I love that video resurfaces from time to time, and then they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you made us do that.
Even the way it ended, and you guys are singing, and then they smile at the camera. I'm like, oh, what a musically happy family that you just don't see that anymore.
That band broke up immediately after that performance. It was a one-hit wonder for sure.
Oh, well, it was great to watch and nice to see, because I think a lot of people were starting to get, just bitter feelings at that point. So it was really nice. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I will pass that on to them and let them know that they did something that made people happy, and just remind them that they can do that and that it's okay.
Yeah. And they might get back into it. I remember I played guitar from when I was 6 to 16. And then as soon as I hit 16, I was like, nope. And then jumped back into it later in my 20s. So they might.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
It's in there. It's working its way in their bloodstream, and then it'll just resurface when they need it the most.
And with Dad playing music, do you have a studio in your house, or do you just break out the guitar in the living room?
Never.
No?
Never, literally never. I think I have a room in the basement that's at the farthest point away from any other human being, and that's where I play music for sure. But I think if I sat down at the couch with a guitar and said, hey, what do you think of this new song we're working on? I'd get eye rolls and evil stares at this point.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
I know. Yeah. It's just, it's good. It keeps me honest as a musician. My toughest crowd is right here at home, so it's going to make this tour is going to be a breeze compared to that.
And so on the tour, are we going to hear music from all of us, The Adventures of Ben Black, and of course the older stuff too?
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of what my bandmates and I are working on. I have to go from here after talking to you just straight to our rehearsals for the tour, and that's part of the challenge for any tour, is to figure out how to find that kind of balance between the new songs, which are, I guess, the ones that you feel the most urgency for, you want to play them when they're still in their infancy,
right?
And you want to play them when there's still that kind of unpredictability, because we've never performed them before, so you just don't even know what it's going to feel like on the stage, and you don't even know how you're going to play them from start to finish half the time. And that kind of that uncertainty is exciting for a band and for the audience too, I think, in a lot of ways. Because once you played a song 1,000 times, I mean, there's only so far off the rails that it can go. And for sure, there's a a comfort in that. We love that feeling of falling into, you know, an old pair of shoes kind of thing. But when you've got new songs, you want to give them their time on stage when they are still new. So we're just trying to find that blend or balance right now between, you know, how do these new songs fit into their big unruly family of other songs that they got to be a part of forever now.
Right. So are you going to switch up some of those songs to kind of test them out, like with an audience?
We've played a couple of them. You know, the ones that we released as singles, we played a couple of times at some of the festival shows that we played over the course of the last few months. But the vast majority of them are completely untested. And we'll find out really fast what works and what doesn't.
Right.
And the ones that don't work, they either get put back on the bench, or you rework them to find a way for them to kind of feel the way you want them to feel. You know, those are the scary but also kind of compelling moments in the early part of a tour, especially when you're just throwing a bunch of paint at the wall and you don't really know what you're gonna come up with.
But this is a big tour, so you're gonna wanna switch it up and have fun with it.
For sure, absolutely, yeah.
So you guys are doing.
There's no way like playing the same thing the same way every day is an option for us, and you know, whether the set list is sort of, I guess, composed of most of the same songs, they're always going to be those ones that you throw in to keep everybody, including ourselves, guessing and digging into the vault or the sort of the deeper part of the bag and pulling out something unexpected and seeing how that changes the way the whole show moves and feels.
Well, and it makes it awesome for the audience, too, to be able to go to more than one show and see the differences and hear the different songs. You guys are doing a lot of Canadian dates, but you're hitting the States and then you're headed across the pond.
Yeah, so it's pretty full on, especially, again, in comparison to the last few years. We're going to be over in the UK and also just announced a bunch of shows in Spain, too, which is a country that we've gone back to almost every record that we've put out over the last couple of decades, so looking forward to reconnecting with the people over there as well, and yeah, just putting ourselves to the test.
Yeah, it's going to be great, and I wish you all the best on this tour and getting back at it. And thank you so much for taking the time, Sam, to talk to me today.
Dana, thanks. It's great to talk to you, and yeah, looking forward to crossing paths